right, welcome into Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shelley, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Thank you very much for tuning us in, especially on today. As we all kind of mourn the passing of our founder, Patrick Gotch, 70 years old. Boy. Why don't we get in with our first guest? Well, let's go through the markets real quick, and we'll talk to our first guest, but I want to bring up corn and see what the overnight action was. We do have a purpose, so we'll get that done first here. July is up 3.5 cents. 4.56 is last there, and that's just 2 cents off the high of the day. We've had about a 4-cent range. New crop's up 4.5 cents to 4.81, right? And that's just a tick off the high of the day there, and we had about a 5-cent range there. That's corn. If we move over to the beans, they are also higher between, say, 2 to 3.5 cents across the board. 3.5 cents better in the July. Overnight, we got to 12.31.5 for the close, and that's about 4 cents off the high and about 8 cents off the lows-ish, right? And we've got an OV bean price up 2 cents to 12.05 1/4, and that's just 2 cents off the high there, all right? So that's beans. Everything a little bit of green on the screen here, folks, especially in the wheat. Wheat's 18 cents better in Chicago. That's Chicago wheat July. 6.69 1/4 is last, but still that's 2.5 cents off the high of the day. We had another good range over there, but almost 20 cents. I'm going to call it 18 right now, just under. Deese wheat in Chicago is up 17 cents to 7.13 1/2. All right, moving to the hard red in Kansas City. What does that have in store for us? Another big gain, 19 cents better in that July to 6.80 3/4. Still 2 cents off the high, and another almost another 20-cent range, 20 3/4 cent range if my math's correct. So there you go. Deese, that's up 19.5 cents to 7.16 1/4 as well. Moving over to the spring wheat. Let's go to 14 cents better there. This is Minneapolis. July is at 7.25 1/2. That's a penny and a quarter off the high there. And again, another 15-cent range for us. And then we've got a Deese board that's up 14 3/4 cents to 7.50 3/4. And that's just one tick off the high of the day out there and about a 15 1/4 cent range. All right. Finally, cotton was up during the radio show this morning. It still is 95 points. Well, it's finished there. 95 points better in that July contract. 76.84, and then we had a Deese board up 59 points to 75.56, and that gets us to our next guest analyst. It seems like he's always the guy we kick off every morning with. That's Brian Hoops. He's with Midwest Market Solutions down in Springfield, Missouri. Brian, I don't know if you ever got to meet Patrick. Did you ever bump into him ever?
I never had a chance to meet him. You know, obviously heard much about him, and his legacy will continue to live on. Heard about the news Saturday night, and yeah, it was kind of shocking, very shocking, and wish the best to his family.
Yeah, you know, he would implore me to get out and about. You know, I'm one of the few people that actually gets out of the building here. We work so much, but I go out and speak a lot, and I get to travel. And that's the one thing I love about this job the most is getting out in front of people. But he would say, do as much as you can, because then you'll get a real good sense of what RFD TV really means to the people out in the country. And you know, yeah, I get involved. You know, when I'm in the airport and that stuff, I get noticed a lot from Fox. But you put me out in the middle of nowhere, like Holstein, Iowa, or not that that's in the middle of nowhere, but you know, out in the middle of the country, and it's amazing to see all the people that actually do come up to you and thank you for what RFD TV does for the rural communities. You know, both farming and ranching. It's been an amazing thing.
You know, and I talk to farmers all over the country all day long, and you hear the same thing, is that, you know, I saw you on RFD TV, I heard you talk about this, and it's amazing how many people, not just farmers and ranchers, but there's people even in town that'll say, you know, they'll see me and recognize me from TV, just common people that want to know what's going on in agriculture, or they had some sort of a farm background. Maybe they don't farm now, but they're in the community and just have that relationship with agriculture and the farming way of life.
Yeah, it's been a great thing, and it will continue to do so. That's for sure. That's what we're going to make sure happens here as well. Any real quick before we break overnight thoughts?
You know what we're going to talk about, 90% of it is going to be weather related. It's too dry in Russia now after having some frost damage, so the crop in Russia continues to get smaller and smaller. Here in the U.S., we'll forecast much wetter yesterday and this morning than what it was when we went home on Friday. You know, very little rain chances, or at least, you know, small rain chances with 1 to 2 inch rains. Now we're talking about rain chances every day across the Corn Belt and up to 6 inches in some areas. I think Des Moines, Iowa had 2 to 3 inches overnight alone. So there's a lot of rain chances around. We're going to be talking about prevent plant by the end of the week here for the corn market. May 25th is the deadline.
All right, that'll be something we'll keep an eye on. Stay right there, though. We need to go away. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to come back and talk more with Brian Hoops. He's with Midwest Market Solutions. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back in. Let's remind ourselves, don't catch myself there, let's remind ourselves what we did in these livestock markets on Friday. That's where we're going to be. Let's take a look at live cattle. June was up $2.02, closed at 181.05, and that was about 15 cents off the high of the day there. And we got a D sport that was up $1.35 to 185.90, and that too was just a tick off the highs. So kind of a strong close when it came to live cattle. Feeder cattle also were higher. We had an August board up $2.50 to 259.85, and that was only about 27 cents off the high of the day there. And if we go out to the November, that was up $2.12 to 260.52, 30 cents off the high there. And then finally, let's see how lean hogs did going home. They were off $1.87 up front. That's June. 96.50 was last, and that too. Oh, it's going about 32 cents from the low there. So trading heavy going home. We'll see if we can open up a little bit better here today. But let's see what Mr. Brian Hoops has to say about it. Brian, any thoughts about what does the screen say we're going to do with these things? What's going on?
We should open a little bit firmer here in the cattle, a little follow-through buying. It was a strong week last week, not only from futures market gains, but cash was $4 to $6 better in dress basis. The cutout values screamed higher, almost $14, $15 gains in the choice. Select was up $10 to $11. It was big moves in those markets, primarily because packers cut their kills a little bit. I think we're hearing rumors anyway that we're going to see kills slow down again this week. Then the following week is Memorial Day, so you'll have another slowdown in kills, and that should keep these boxes margins at least propped up and allow packers to pay a little bit higher money for the cash markets. We're hearing, out into June 6th, packers really want cattle for at least that time frame. So we're expecting stronger gains again this week. Of course, we had good futures market last week. Cattle and feed report comes out this Friday, along with the cold storage report, released pretty much simultaneously at 2 o'clock. And I look for those placement numbers, on feed numbers to be below last year. Market needs to be well above year-ago levels at this time. So it looks to be, at least this point anyway, a friendly on feed report Friday.
What's the chances we run away from the consumer's wallet here?
We probably already have in a lot of cases.
Right.
Right. So we're probably going to be continuing that, chasing that trend here. Prices trying to move higher into the summer, but will the consumer back away from that? Well, we already know that a lot of those consumers backing away from the higher end cuts, steaks at restaurants, that sort of thing. It's more of the demand for ground beef, for lower cuts of meat that's still attracting that consumer so far, and hopefully that continues, that they don't back away, but it's certainly a possibility.
I think it's just all setting up for a terribly interesting trade, especially going into an election in November, and then what happens right after that with the economy. I mean, it's going to be, we're on so many precarious points, economically speaking, and then also with the tightness in the supply for the cattle. I think it's going to be a real interesting trade. What do you think?
Oh, it's going to be a very interesting grain trade and livestock trade going into the summer. Yeah, it's going to be no shortage of volatility. It looks like, we were maybe talking 3 months ago about a drought that could give us higher prices. Now it's too much rain, too much water, and water standing that possibly has given us this spring into the summer rally.
All right, put your mouthpiece in. It's going to be bumpy. All right, appreciate that. Thank you very much, Brian Hoops. He's with Midwest Market Solutions in Springfield, Missouri. Bring it back here to Nashville, 49 Music Row. And hand it back over to Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Scott.